Drake is here. We'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission to order. And, well, would you serve for Bill Rice? Make sure, he said he's on a plane and may show up late, so. Okay,
Right. Who are you appointing for, Bill?
Ron, I'm sorry. I'll talk louder, Ken. The first order of business is public hearing, application 14-01 of Ed Valley and Associates, Inc., agent Randy E. and Shelley Swinford, owners, requesting re-subdivision of the property located at 5 Pinnacle Mountain Road, map H11, block 106, lot 001. Create 2 lots, zone R40. This is continued from our 9-day public hearing, and so, like to present?
Sure. Good evening. For the record, my name is TJ Baresi. I'm a licensed engineer and land surveyor. I'm employed at Ed Lyland Associates in the town of Windsor. Law office is located on Prospect Hill Road. Tonight I'm here representing Randy and Shelley Swinford regarding a parcel known as 5 Pinnacle Mountain Road. The parcel is shown as lot 001, block 106, map H11 of the town assessor maps. It contains 7.163 acres and is located in an R40 zone. The parcel runs along the north and westerly side of Pinnacle Mountain Road. Also has frontage along Terry Plains Road. It's generally rectangular in shape, except for a little bit of irregularity due to the curvature of Pinnacle Mountain Road. The existing topography shown generally slopes away from Pinnacle Mountain Road towards Terry Plains Road. The topography was taken from the town of Simsbury topographic mapping. It's based on the datum of NAVD 88. The site is mostly wooded in this area and in this area here. A little more woods over here with a small open space right in this area here. Presently there's an existing home on the southerly end of the property. This home is accessed up Pinnacle Mountain Road. It's served by public water and a private septic system. There are no wetlands existing on the property. Applicant is proposing a re-subdivision by dividing the parcel into two lots, lot 1 and lot 2. All lots meet the zoning requirements. Lot 1 will be maintaining the existing home. Lot 2 is being created to propose a new single-family home. The minimum lot area is 40,000 square feet. Lot 1 contains 148,050 square feet. Lot 2 contains 163,972 square feet. According to the zoning requirements, you also require minimum developable area, which is 10,000 square feet. Lot 1 contains 144,463. Lot 2 contains 121,761. Each lot also contains the minimum 10,000 square foot buildable area rectangle with a minimum required dimension of 80 feet. That's shown on another plan. In this set, you have a subdivision plan, which is the first sheet in the plan, which has shows all the zoning requirements of the side yard, front yard, and rear yards, and the minimum lot area. Also a plan in the set called billable area plan. This plan here demonstrates the minimum requirement area for the buildable area.
Could I ask you, so we can still see, maybe you can a little, some public hearing, turn a little more,
Oh, a little more that way?
audience can also see?
Sure.
I think we can too. Thank you.
But this plan also, yep,
Repeat the charts you've shown that we didn't see.
the charts, sure.
Just again describing the lot, none of us could see that.
Okay, each
You might
document,
want to move up, if you move up
Okay.
closer too, that would be helpful.
I would have been sitting in your chair to see it.
I'm sorry?
There was no way anybody back here could see that.
Well, I think right now it looks pretty good.
That's good.
just stating that each lot meets the minimum zoning requirements of square footage, minimum buildable area, and you also need a minimum buildable area rectangle, which has a minimum dimension of 80 feet. So we show it right here on lot 2, right here on lot 1. The subdivision plan, which is the first sheet, has the lot areas, shows the side yards, front yards, and rear yards. of the properties, of the lots, also has the minimum zoning requirement in the subdivision notes. The design is for frontage lots along Pinnacle Mountain Road. Both lots will be served by individual driveways. We have no new roads proposed. All new utilities will be underground. Both lots are served by public water, which is available on Pinnacle Mountain Road. Both lots will be served by individual septic systems. Lot 1 has an existing septic system in the back here. Lot 2, we're proposing a septic area right here. We went out and performed soils tests witnessed by Farmington Valley Health Department to determine that the existing lot will have a reserve area required and that the proposed lot has enough soil suitable for a proposed septic system and a reserve area in the future. And we did receive their approval. Proposed lot will be graded to create positive flow away from the foundation. In reply to the Conservation Commission, we show silt fence to control erosion and runoff. We show silt sack on the nearest catch basin, and all disturbed areas be seeded and stabilized. The Conservation Commission did meet last week, and they had some comments that they'd like us to add some additional notes regarding the water service connection to the plan and some additional erosion controls, which we did. Unfortunately, we haven't received their approval yet. They meet next week again, and we hope to have their approval at that point in time. But we have complied with all their comments. We received comments from the town engineer this past Friday, October 10th. But with yesterday's holiday, we did not have time to address them in ample time for you to review before tonight's meeting. However, the comments are not unreasonable. We anticipate complying with each comment. So hopefully, in your next meeting, we'll have the wetland approval, and we've been able to address all the town engineer comments that we received on Friday. I believe you received a letter from the applicant requesting an extension to November 11th. I know you have a meeting before November 11th, but the idea is, in case there's one or two outstanding issues that are unresolvable at that point in time, we still have one more meeting that we can iron everything out. If you have any questions at this time, I'll try to answer them. That's my ability.
Okay. Commission? Yeah, we do plan to leave it open, so.
Yes. Okay, right.
Comments, questions, commissioners?
So Conservation is asking for a erosion plan?
They want additional erosion controls.
You wrote one up though, right? I thought I saw.
We have a full sheet of erosion control notes and narratives regarding stabilizing the soil and putting erosion controls in.
So that's something you'll talk with them about when you see that?
We talked with them at the last meeting, and since the last meeting, they wanted us to put some more erosion controls where the water service is going, which we show on the plan here. They wanted a little more detailed note about the construction sequence to tap into the water main, which we did. And they wanted some calculations for the dry wells, which received the roof leaders, which we provided to them. And I believe we've received their satisfaction to everything.
Other comments, questions? Anyone from the public would like to speak? Please, also give your name, and if you don't speak loudly, go
Can I go up there?
please, so we can all hear it. Give your name and address, and
Right.
appreciate it.
My name is Michael Rinaldi. I live at 32 Pinnacle Mountain Road. I'm one of the original residents on Pinnacle Mountain Road, 1974, when the Darling Estate was originally subdivided. That 7.2 acre plot was the last piece of property that was developed on that mountain because of the topography of the land, the difficulty with putting a resident there. Subsequently, about 15 years later, it got developed. As the Planning Commission said, in these days and age, you could put a house any place. You could put it on stilts. The problem isn't the runoff from the topography. it's a deep cliff. That isn't the problem. The problem isn't the septic system. You can build a septic system most any place nowadays, even just a tank and pump it. The problem is, what you don't see on these drawings is the street, which has a 270-degree curve on a steep hill. And the problem is on-street parking. Now, the zoning officer told me that the only compliance they need for zoning is to be able to put 2 cars on the driveway. But that's not enough. Unless you have no parking signs all the way up the hill and around the corner, that's an extremely dangerous place. In fact, school bus almost got nailed there the other day. Okay? So if you park a car any place along that curve or on that hill, especially in the wintertime, you're asking for huge troubles. Okay? Now, let me tell, the zoning compliance officer told me not to come here and show you some stuff. But I said, why does he want me not to come here and show you some stuff? Well, I got some pictures, and I think you might like to look at these, and I'll give them to you. We have a problem on the 180-degree curve further up the hill. It's been an ongoing problem for years, but only in the past 5 years has it become to the point where we're all deeply concerned because multiple near-hit accidents have occurred there. Now here's the problem. This is in front of 28 Pinnacle Mountain Road, where they built basically 2 houses on 1 lot. And the problem is they have no parking. And the parking is all done on the street. 3 or 4 cars there, 14 or 15 cars
I don't
there.
know the addresses. We go Pinnacle Mountain, the first curve is to the left, and it straightens out, and then the curve to the right.
The next curve, 180-degree curve.
Stone houses on the left.
That's right. And if you park any place on that curve, you got 12 cars there, 17 cars there. This is an everyday event. 9 cars here. I mean, it's impossible. And now what happens is when you go to the police department, you can't do anything. You're allowed to park on the street. When you go to zoning, they say, well, nothing we can do. Nobody can do anything. And it's only going to take somebody to get killed before something will get done. But now that's bad on 28 Pinnacle Mountain Road. On 7 Pinnacle Mountain Road, that's a danger. Every one of you should go up there with your car and drive around that curve and say, is there somebody parked around that curve? Because if there is, I'm in trouble. Because if somebody's coming down, there's no room. It's basically an unbuildable situation if you don't have enough place to park. Now, I would agree with approving this. I have no problem with it. But it has to be approved with no parking all the way up the hill and around the curve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronaldo. Someone else? Yes, sir.
Robertson, I live at 16 Pinnacle Mountain Road. Resided there over 25 years. Excuse me, I was resided there since 1998, which was about 15 years. I do that commute that we just described every morning and every evening, many winters. There frequently are gardeners or garden trucks parked on 5 Pinnacle Mountain Road on that turn as we talk. Whenever that happens, as a car coming up the hill, you have to move more to the middle of the road to pass those parked cars. It is completely blind anyone coming down. So I'm very concerned as a commuter, as someone who has to commute to my home, the parking situation described now, I have faced for people who live at 5 Pinnacle Mountain Road. Usually it's the gardeners that are parked with their large trucks and their garden equipment. When you come up the hill, you're completely blind to anyone coming down the hill. And as you move to the center of the road to pass any cars, you really are in jeopardy. In the wintertime coming up, it's usually pretty steep. If it hasn't been freshly plowed, you can watch the skid tracks, people tracking back and forth. Any parking in the winter is just asking for a major problem. So I absolutely agree with the former gentleman. I have no problem with the design that's shown here. The biggest issue is the danger as you come up that hill. It's a steep hill with a curve. You're blind to anyone coming down. Any parking on the right side of the street moves everybody to the middle of the road. It creates a serious hazard.
Thank you. Anyone else for report? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to, I live, Bob Lux, I live at 12 Pinnacle Mountain Road. Dr. Ellis is my neighbor. I commute every day into the city of Hartford, and I've experienced exactly the same problem. And on top of that, over the course of the 14 years I've lived there, I have personally helped pull 2 people out of cars who've gone off the road because they swerved because someone was parked there. Neighbors, daughters, and what have you. So, you know, check. So I just want to say that it's a dangerous area and it's treacherous during the winter.
Thank you.
I'm George Troutman at 18 Pinnacle Mountain Road, and my worry is a fire. You've got a bunch of houses now that they're the only thing that they're depending upon when the fire department is a little cistern that's up opposite 20 Pinnacle Mountain Road. So 2 more houses down here. I believe the town ought to put in a pump system to pump the water up there and make all of these houses safe. That, I think, particularly with this coming, I think it should be done. It's really got to be done because everybody up there is in serious danger. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Carey. I live at 11 Pinnacle Mountain Road, and I've lived there for 18 years. I would just like to underscore the safety and danger points that Mr. Rinaldi and Dr. Peterson raised. I myself have witnessed, due to the blindness, so many near accidents on that road as a result of people who are either parked, and sometimes not even parked, but you know, it just happened to be taking up more space on the road than they should be. It was certainly not a street that was ever put together that anticipated parking of any sort. And I believe myself it would be a very, very damaging, very damaging and treacherous act for the people who live on that street. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hillary DeMassio. I live at 24 Pinnacle Mountain. My husband and I have 5 young boys, ranging from 11 years to 18 months. I'm here to voice my concerns about cars and trucks parked on the road. Pinnacle Mountain is a winding, steep, narrow road, as everyone said before. There's no painted lines, no street lights, no shoulder. Cars and trucks parked on the road provide dangerous obstacles to other cars, pedestrians, garbage trucks, school buses, and snow plows. Every day my kids wait at the bus stop with these cars parked on the road. The bus has to drive down the middle of the road around a blind corner. I feel it's very, very dangerous. And I can only imagine coming up the road. I took this picture just today of my car approaching that turn, and you can see there's not a lot of room if there's a car parked there for 2 cars to pass coming along that blind corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't know what the commission thinks. I'm going to have to talk to Ira. The 2 issues raised, parking and cistern, I think are at least they're out of my level of expertise, and I'm not sure it's a planning commission issue, and I think since we're leaving the hearing open, you should let us address this with staff and with the other departments who might have a responsibility in the areas you've raised. The public hearing meeting is to discuss the house and drainage and setbacks and all that, but I think these issues raised obviously are a concern to all of you, so I think we ought to, unless Hiram has another suggestion, I think we ought to go back and talk to the other people who have expertise in this areas. Does that make sense, Hiram?
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Chairman. I think that I will check back with the police department and fire department both with regard to the issues that have been brought up with regard to safety. No question about that. So we'll have something, the applicant has asked for the hearing to remain open, so we can do that based upon their request for that. The other thing that needs to be addressed tonight is the open space question. So the applicant needs to explain to the commission what they're proposing, and the commission may want to give them some feedback on that before the next meeting as well. So.
You're right, I totally forgot about that. The applicant is proposing a fee in lieu of open space. I know there's some minimum open space, I believe is 20%, and there's certain requirements that the open space must have. Really the only spot for the open space on this piece of property would be in this area here. And I know I believe he's had conversations with the town planner where that piece of open space would not serve much purpose or much use. It's not connecting any other open space, has no recreational value. So based on those conditions, the applicant was proposing a fee in lieu of open space.
Right, if I remember correctly, the amount was mentioned was $2,500.
I unfortunately don't have that letter in my file, but I know
That's
we
what I
had that
remember.
discussion about it.
I don't know, I know, well, speaking for the town of Simsbury as an elected official, I know it's not too much. I don't know where we'll go from there, but do you want, commissioners have any feelings? This is something we should think about, I guess. I'm not, I don't have any thoughts on that?
There was a mechanism to establish there was a mechanism somewhere, I think, to establish the basis for the fee, but I think there's something here that makes that not possible.
No, it can be done. There's a variety of different ways that it can be done. If the commission is receptive to the idea, the way it works under the existing statute is that the applicant needs to propose it to the commission needs to decide whether it's acceptable or not. Basically, the way the state law reads is 10% of the value of the pre-development cost of the lot. You can get an appraisal, the applicant can get an appraisal, we will end up disagreeing, we'll get a third appraiser, and what will happen ultimately is we'll come up with some numbers. The way the regulations were crafted the last time we did them, not long ago, was that we could avoid all that, paying all those additional appraisal costs. We took an average cost of what the open space would be worth on a per lot basis, and that's where the $2,500 came from. It's right in the regs. So that's what the applicant's proposing in this particular case. I think the applicant has worked with the assistant town planner to talk about that and whether there would be any benefit. This obviously has some significant slopes and it's no proposal to develop there anyway. So the applicant was proposing the fee in lieu of. So feedback from the commission either at this time or at the next meeting prior to closing the hearing would be probably a good thing to do and decide what you want to do on that.
You know, I would say we definitely don't want open space in my feeling, either conservation easement or fee in lieu.
The
That's
fee in
my
lieu
opinion.
makes sense to me. You know, now that I understand how the value is determined, it seems to me a sensible alternative.
Still a public hearing, and I guess we can hear from him. Yes, sir.
I would just like to make a request from the commission here to let all the people on Pinnacle Mountain Road know when there is a meeting concerning this piece of property. There was very little notification to us on the hill. There was a little sign way back into the woods, barely visible from the road. And when I went down to zoning, they said only people within 100 feet of that property would be notified. And I don't know what the rules are, but within 100 feet of that piece of property, that's almost nobody. So all of us on the Hill had no idea what was going on. The
I
planning,
would say though, Howard, you've done very well tonight. You've got,
yeah, but
We love
this
to
took a
have
lot
company.
of
We also don't
effort
have as
on
many
our
people, so-
part. This took a lot of effort on our part
Yeah.
to organize this. And the other thing I would like to say for each and every one of you, take a ride up there. Put your car on that curve, and then get your wife to come down the other side. And see if you like to live
You have to
there.
get married?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to get married, get your girlfriend.
It seems to me you already have a problem there, and it has nothing to do with these lots. You have a danger already present.
We're trying to get rid of that. That's
I
our problem.
understand that, and this isn't necessarily the answer to your problem,
This
these
is,
lots.
this
It can
creates
only
another problem.
aggravate the situation.
I can agree with you there. I'm just suggesting that you have a danger that's
We
already
do.
present without any
We
kind of
know
development
that.
that's already there.
We don't want two.
Oh, I understand
But
that.
it's a blind corner, you
And
know,
this
that's
is,
what you need
and
to
this is the
see.
worst of the two.
I think
Now, we're trying to take care of the one on 28 Pinnacle Mountain Road. We're gonna have to get legal problems there, because it was pushed through zoning. They built 2 houses on that place, and they got 3 people, 3 families living there. And they conduct a business there, called C-Tech.
All of that.
I know that has nothing to do with
Nothing
this.
to do with this.
I agree with you. But the fact is that that problem there is just another manifestation of what could occur down the bottom of the hill.
Correct, so
Which
what we
could
need
kill
is
us.
some kind of traffic control there to solve all those issues. In fact, no street parking, especially on dangerous curves.
We have
which
no
is the way it's
problem with
supposed
that.
to be. And maybe that's the answer that we were
No
looking for.
problem. You put no parking zones all the way up the hill and around the corner. You wouldn't see me here.
You made yourself clear, and we understand what our mission is to communicate with the people who are responsible for those areas, and we will do that. And, but I'd like to continue with the issue, the real estate matter of the house, which really is not directly related to what you're saying. But I understand what you're saying, and we will follow up, and at our next meeting, if the sign is not in the proper place to alert, and I will ask staff to see if we can say continued in the bottom of it, so people understand the hearing is continued at our next meeting, which is not, I don't think it'll be difficult to do. So, yes, sir.
Just a question. Are you saying that the parking issue is not in the jurisdiction of the zoning commission? Because there
No,
was certain-
we're planning.
I'm sorry, I meant of the
We're
planning,
planning. We
The
use it as
subdivision.
consideration.
but it's potentially not, because I guess the question that's being raised by all of us who've come here tonight is recognizing we have a problem,
Yes.
we don't know how to address it, and we're concerned that this property is the very entrance to the entire Pinnacle Mountain Road, that if we have a problem farther up the street, it's only affecting half the street. This will affect everyone. And we want to seek, before the problem becomes there and we have the cars on the street, we're trying to understand what the process is and who has jurisdiction over the parking issue.
And we'll
That
be
is-
seeking that out ourselves.
And we'll follow up.
So
We'll
the
follow
question
up
then
on that.
becomes, how does that get communicated back to us who live there? Do we have to look at the sign on the grass in the fine print, or will there be a written communication sent to us who come here? That's the question I'm asking. How are you going to communicate the next step back to us?
Well,
If
won't that
Karen
be
may
addressed
correct me,
next meeting?
At the next meeting,
The next meeting, 2 weeks,
Which
2
is when?
weeks,
2 weeks from tonight.
So you suggest we
We
come
will
here?
try and get you-
Yes,
yeah.
please. Thank you.
we'll try and get you an answer for our next, which is still a public hearing,
Thank you so much.
okay? And I think 2 weeks, I think is, do you agree, Herman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just understand, putting a property there will aggravate the problem. And so shouldn't that be something you should consider?
Absolutely.
Yes, but.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not
fine.
suggesting
As
that-
long as you guys are going to consider that, because I do think it ultimately is impacted by your decision. In other words, if you
But as you
approve the
pointed out-
property and then the town says they'll do something about it and they never do, we're stuck with a more dangerous situation than currently exists.
Absolutely, hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
In back, the young lady with her hand up.
Marzick, 119 East Dexter. I love sitting in the audience. I would like to address the fact that I think that you guys really need to do a field trip and go up there and look at this because of all the steep slopes and everything. There are going to be drainage issues incurred. There's going to be several driveways that go out into this dangerous curve. Maybe it becomes a shared driveway issue. There's a lot of complications to this. And the open space, there perhaps is a piece up there that might be valuable because as you recall, if you use open space, you can basically make the town continue to look like it does. You alleviate having probably 2 or 3 lots, it would go down to 2. And if you use it as a conservation easement, you don't take away from coverage. So then they would still be able to do 3 lots. So it's an option to consider. The $2,500 to me sounds like nothing. And so I think that, you know, it's being penny wise and pound foolish maybe, and maybe you guys want to look at it and try to see if you can enhance the situation if you decide to say approve 2 lots instead of 3.
There's only 2 lots.
There's only 2.
Oh, I thought it was a 3 lot.
It's only adding 1 house.
Oh, okay. So, well, anyway, I thought it was a 3 lot. So, in any event, you may want to consider the open space anyway, perhaps, or, you know, do something maybe to make it a better situation and maybe like a shared driveway or something. So, anyway, I think you guys should do a field trip, but I'm not on plan. But if you are, the public gets to go and then they can weigh in too.
Yes, you want to speak again?
Yes, hi, it's Mary Carey again on 11 Pinnacle Mountain. In addition to the safety concerns that have been, I think, you know, very well addressed here, in looking, you know, in driving up that street, and I drive it up and down every day, going to work, coming, you know, going back and forth, you know, and I don't know if this is something that the planning, the zoning board takes into account at all. It does strike me that there was never any intention for that land to be developed. It does strike me in driving up that hill, there was never any intention, the way the entire street was set up, that there would be any additional housing there. And I don't know to what extent the commission here thinks in terms of aesthetics. But frankly, one of the things that's very beautiful about this street is when you drive up, there is a long period that is just, you know, forest and grass and nature. And that's one of the things I think that makes this street extremely attractive. And I think putting another house there, or even 2 houses, I'm not quite sure what the application is for, 1 or 2, I think that that is going to take away from the beauty of the street.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Weld, I'm on 5 Heather Lane. My question was, is the proposal for 1 additional lot but 2 additional houses?
No.
No, just 1 additional
One
house?
additional.
It's subdividing
Right.
the existing lot, adding
So
a
the
house.
question, and hearing, especially after hearing the testimony of the people that live on the street for many, many years, is there additional room on that lot, or are there slope contingents that there going to be enough parking for at least 2 to 3 parking? So what I'm
Like
asking,
making the driveway wider?
I'm just
So you
saying,
can
if there's
have parking.
obviously an existing problem with parking on the street, and the street sloped and curved, so you don't want to, is there enough room on the lots to have additional parking?
More than likely, and definitely going to look at that as a alternative in the design before we come back 2 weeks from now.
Right, because I didn't get a chance to really look at it closely, but I think
It's hard for me to
address
say yes without looking at, you
Right.
know,
Are the
details.
lots constrained by slope? I mean, it looks like a little bit, but are there at least,
There
They're
are,
not-
there are
this-
some areas, obviously.
this, I don't want to, I just couldn't, I don't have very good, I can't see. But I just want to ask, particularly after hearing the neighbor's testimony, that if there's areas that are already developed on the lot, obviously there's an existing house, but
Yeah.
is there an area that you would be able to develop some parking so that you wouldn't exacerbate the existing parking problem?
It'd only be for that private homeowner.
Right.
Right.
But
This-
that
this
homeowner is
shaded-
not the one that is parking the cars on the road.
Who's parking on the road?
Nobody's parking.
Nobody's parking on the road.
Well, the neighbors have testified that people
No,
park on the
road.
road.
Occasionally, we have parking on the road that comes from both 5 and from 8.
You mean if they have company or service workers or something?
Yes.
Yes, correct, correct. Now, for example, some of the houses have extremely large areas for parking, in my own house, I have enough parking for a small 7-Eleven. But even then, if you're gonna have a very large party, there are gonna be those instances
Right.
where
On
you're
one
gonna
of- you know.
have some parking.
Does the
Depends
driveway
on-
slope down? Is that,
Yes, it does, yeah.
okay,
From the
would
road
that,
down.
would that make it less likely for people to want to park in the driveway?
If I'm visiting somebody, I don't want to park on the road. I'd rather, my first choice is there room in the driveway whenever I go over anybody's house? So if we can, you know, kind of reshape this driveway in a manner where you can have, I don't know what the driveway regulations are in town as far as how long you can have a double driveway. But by providing, obviously, some pull-off area where you can go side by side and have access into the garage is obviously, might be an alternative to this, some of the problems you're having over there.
Right.
By providing
I mean, I was
room.
just listening to the testimony that there were, oh, sorry. That there was a problem with people parking there on a regular, on Pinnacle Mountain, so it was causing a traffic problem. So my only question was, you know, a normal homeowner, a couple times a year has, you know, the
Yeah.
family over, whatever.
Right.
Graduation party every 4 years or whatever. But, so you're obviously gonna need some on those events,
Right.
but it sounds like it's a regular occurrence. That there's.
If there's a
people
regular
parking on the
occurrence of
street.
people constantly parking and creating traffic problems, that's an issue that really needs to be brought forward to the right commission
Right.
and the right agencies. But
I was
for
just
me,
concerned
number
that
one,
they had enough
I don't know how wide the
room
road
on the
is.
lot.
I mean, most town roads are built to town standards where you should be able to park something and have room for a safety vehicle going back.
Right, and you've got
A
to
radius
figure out
of
the-
270 feet is
Yeah.
actually safer than a radius of 150 feet. Are there sightline problems when you're coming around here that you can't see far enough ahead because of vegetation that's overgrown? Maybe the town has to go out there and make sure that the 50-foot right-of-way is clear. You know,
I mean, it's definitely,
we'll make sure that we have our required sightline. I'll have that data for the next meeting. But all these people that you keep saying are constantly parking on the road, I really don't know who they are.
I'm not, I'm,
I
And
don't think
if
that any of us have said it's a constant problem there yet. We're concerned that it could become one. But we have all experienced cars parked there, you know, when somebody at number 8 has a problem,
A visitor.
or when the lawn guys are parked for number 5.
Yeah.
And what that tells us is that when a vehicle's parked and you turn to pass it, you do not see the other vehicle that's coming around the sharp curve, okay?
Okay,
And so we all have enough experience to know
that is an
that
issue. That's,
that occurs, and anything that's gonna aggravate that problem is gonna affect us all.
my question was basically just that this new lot that's being created has enough area that's not, doesn't
Being developed.
exacerbate the
Long
problem.
enough.
It's definitely,
There's never going to be enough area, because even if you park one extra car on that curve, it's a killer. So my feeling is, if you want to approve this, be my guest. However, no parking signs all the way up the hill and around the curve to protect us. We don't want any cars on that hill.
I understand.
Is there a parking problem at where that existing house is now?
Occasionally, yes.
And is it because the neighbors are parking the cars at the bottom of the hill waiting for their children, something like that?
No. It's because right now there's a,
We're talking about the fact that this house at the bottom of the hill has guests who are parking out on the street
No,
and
no.
not parking in their
no,
driveway?
no, listen,
I'm just trying to understand the
Yeah, I
dynamics that
wanna
exist
try to-
there
I wanna
as
try to-
compared to,
I'm gonna try to explain it to you, okay?
Okay.
The Darling house, Darling Estate, the original house,
okay, where's that?
which is across the street from 7,
It's number 8.
I see.
okay? Now that, that house was sold to somebody, an investment banker from New York.
Okay.
Now, he comes occasionally there, but like a New Yorker, he parks on the street.
Okay.
And there's no cone set up, so when you come around that curve,
It's a blind curve.
you're dead if somebody's coming up.
Mhm.
Okay? Now, most of the people who live on that road drive 10 miles an hour and are shaking going down that hill. In the wintertime, it's like, I don't want to go out. You know, we live in an R80 zone.
I understand it's a very dangerous road.
We live on an R80 zone, and zoning doesn't help us. We go to the zoning officer, nothing I can do. We go to the police department, nothing I can do. Nobody can do anything. We're just trying to prevent another problem.
All right.
Hiram,
Those-
whose jurisdiction is traffic problems in the town?
Well, I actually know the answer, but I'll get it from the official before your next meeting,
Okay.
so you have it for sure. You know, between the fire marshal and the police chief, I'll get both of those answers for you. And we'll try to get something in writing from both of them.
In the meantime, could the applicant move the hearing for public hearing sign so it's very visible close to the road, number 1, 2? and
We just
put
have
a
to make sure it's on,
continued-
it has to be on the property, that's the
Yeah, I know
requirement
that.
that we make
And
sure.
put a continued and the date of our next meeting on it.
Yes.
So that way, everybody in your neighborhood will be aware. And we will get back. Yeah. Now, we still have the Conservation Commission before our next meeting, to address our next meeting, and I don't know if the commission wants to discuss the fee and lieu tonight, or do that next week, or in 2 weeks. It's up to you. Or any other questions with the, of the applicant, or with a written text?
I don't know why we can't deal with one issue tonight, anyway. I don't know, from my perspective, having orphan pieces of open space has proved not to be desirable for a number of reasons. You know more about that than I do, but $2,500 isn't a lot of money, but an orphan piece of property that nobody has access to up there doesn't really do us any good.
Well, not to mention that it's not buildable because of the slope from what you said, right?
Right.
So there's no
Right,
no
and-
point taking it anyway. so
And the
it's-
lots need to have the minimum developable area, and so you wouldn't be able to get another.
It's going to be empty space, no matter what.
I agree with Al. I think this might be one of the applications that would actually fit the fee in lieu of requirement that we have in our already in our regulations. So I think that we should approve that.
Okay, other comments?
Hiram, what was the formula? You said there were several options in the formula as far as
Yeah,
the fee in lieu of.
The way the state statute is set up, which is how our regulation was drafted, it's 10% of the value of the pre-development value of the lot.
In other words, the lot itself without a house on it.
Right.
So a lot that size would be somewhere in the $200,000 range.
You know, I'd have to ask the assessor
That's
that.
what lots in this town are going for.
So that pre-development value of the lot would be what we take 10% of.
So we'd be closer to $20,000.
Then basically what happens is that they get an appraisal. The applicant gets an appraiser, and then the commission would likely get an appraiser as well.
Okay, $100,000 for the lot, and it would be $10,000.
So what happens then is that we end up with dueling appraisers.
Mhm.
And the idea was that, and a number of other towns that have fee in lieu of have done the same thing, is that, look, in order to avoid all those costs to begin with, maybe it costs us $2,000 for an appraisal, maybe $3,000, whatever. Maybe we end up with a third appraiser to settle the issue. So rather than do that, the idea was set a specific number. And if it's a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 lot subdivision, that's different. It's $2,500 a lot. So it was set as a kind of a base figure. That's basically how it was.
That's our minimum.
Yes, correct.
And so the 10% doesn't necessarily dictate to us what we have to. We can go anywhere from 2,500 and up.
Well,
Using the criteria, as I just proposed, and let's just say that, for an example. So we could be anywhere between $25,000 and say $10,000. We could choose to imply.
well, we could get an appraiser to
Yeah.
find that value first. That would be the first step.
Couldn't we just set it up, the sale of the house? Right?
Beg your pardon?
I think we want
So
to be
property.
careful about what it costs us to take in another couple
But are we
$1,000.
allowed to make a suggestion, a compromise, without going to appraisal and see if the applicant accepts it? I mean, I just wrote a number on my pad here, but I don't know if that's if it's permissible, we have the right to ask.
I don't know, I mean, you certainly can say whatever you want to say. In the meantime, what I'll do before the next meeting is check with the town attorney to see if that is.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to think it's illegal.
I think you run the risk of treating people differently on the same issue. Not discriminate, well, it's discriminatory,
Yeah.
basically, but you don't want to do anything that ends up getting two different answers for very similar situations.
Then do we always go to the $2,500 figure because we have to be consistent?
Generally speaking, yeah, unless you have another formula that you can apply system-wide, so to speak.
Well,
I think that would make sense if we had a small parcel, you know, it's a quarter acre lot.
But once again, it's predicated on the cost of the lot.
Exactly.
Well,
If the lot itself, if you assume that the lot costs 25,000 or 50,000, maybe the minimum is appropriate, but this is a little more complicated than that.
I think the alternative, you know, from the applicant standpoint is they could say, fine, we'll make that area open space, show them the map as open space.
and it serves no purpose for anyone, except for taking off our actuals.
Excuse me, right.
So there's the trade-off.
Yeah.
So that is exactly it. We talked about this a lot, we're redoing the regs and stuff.
And not only is it open space, but we have to
Maintain it.
maintain it.
It's like all the pre-liabilities.
I'm hearing what everybody's saying. I'd like to sleep on it since we do have the, go ahead.
I would just recommend having the town assessor look at lots, vacant lots in the area and give you an opinion. That way it doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't cost the town any money to hire an appraiser, just have the assessor do it.
Unfortunately, the state statute doesn't work that way.
Yeah, we have to, whatever the
But they can
laws
look
are.
at the lots, there's lots right around the corner that are vacant lots. You could,
But we have to follow, we still have to follow the state statutes about how we're doing that, to look at that. The state statute's clear, we have to hire an assessor, so I'm with Fur, I think we should sleep on this and discuss it.
Because Rich's point is, we want to be consistent, we want to be fair to everybody, it doesn't, you know, and the only way maybe you're fair is each time getting an appraisal. Otherwise, we're trying to, our level of expertise is not there. We have a feel maybe, but we're not, but we can't do one thing for one applicant and another thing for another without having something to back it up in state statute and everything. So let's do this, let's just table this for now, and since we're going to be back in 2 weeks, address it then, and we'll try and do our homework.
Agreed.
Does that make sense?
Can I make an observation on this? I believe it was already made. What this de facto does is deny all the current residents of the road open space in the drive. Parking's the biggest issue, but it's a very nice drive, and it's no longer a very nice drive, it's just a drive past a bunch of homes. You know, it diminishes the value and the attraction of every property on the street.
But that piece isn't buildable anyway, so it's not going to be built.
We're just thinking about what's in the best interest of the town as far as
No, but I'm
that piece
saying
is
if you
concerned.
approve this, a bunch of space that's currently open
you're
space
speaking about
disappears.
We realize that, but when people own land, you know, if they follow the rules,
We have to
they have the right to
balance.
develop.
I appreciate
And it's
that,
just,
but I just
you know.
wanted you to keep in mind that something like this does impact
Yeah.
the property of people on the street.
You know, we are, you know, this town is very conscious of, you know, we're over 30% open space, and we have an open space committee, and we're trying to protect what we have and make sure things connect, so it's on our mind all the time, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the applicant, or? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll, look forward to seeing you again. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on CES 824, referral to the Board of Selectmen to the Plan Commission regarding the purchase of property at 1 Old Bridge Road. I've got information in the packet. While Aaron's getting organized, I took I'd like to thank SCTV and Ken for coming tonight. Thank you very much. And keeping you awake tonight, Ken. Thank you.
What document in our packet was that, do you know? Storage for-
There should be one that's listed, purchase of 1 Old Ridge Road. There's a letter, 2 letters actually.
It's after the picture.
Yeah, with the picture.
Oh, okay.
Correct. This was sent to us recently by the First Selectman's office. The letter that's also attached to this package has a letter from the town engineer as well, describing a little bit about the property, and then the pictures actually that are there. You probably know just as much as I do about what the process is at this particular point in time. Existing structure is fairly old. In some cases, it needs some repair. There's no question that it's in the floodplain. The property was offered to the town, and the town has made some offer to purchase it. And that particular question will go to the Board of Selectmen in the near future. So prior to acquisition of property under 8-24, the Commission needs to take a look at whether that's in keeping with the plan of development, or whether you have any other comments about it as to whether the town should acquire the property or not. There's evidence of the removal, it says in the letter from the, that you have with us, that the hazardous materials would need to be completed as part of any demolition. And I believe that the Board of Selectmen, the town attorney, town engineer have talked about that already and worked that into the price of the property. The site, as I said, is within the special flood hazard area, and it would be difficult to redevelop the site as a residential property. If it were sold to someone else, they could continue to use it as it's currently used, but it is true that the property has had repeated flood incursions over the past. No question about that. So whether someone would be willing to continue to use the property as it is with that particular history is a question for a new owner. Whether the town intends to keep the property as it is, use it for something else, remove the building, or do something else with it, I don't know at this point in time. So, the Commission has any comments, feelings, thoughts about it, we should convey those to the Board of Selectmen.
We had talked on a previous planning commission a few years ago about how nice it would be to be able to do some things along the river. If the charrette plans take off, having some kind of recreational opportunities along the river would be fantastic. You might have some watershed association comments on whatever you do, but what a spot that is to do something really special if the town owned that. I don't know how possible it is, maybe Harm can tell us, but imagine a small boat launch, rent some canoes, paddle boats, sell some ice cream in the summer, let charities run it. I mean, look how successful the Flower Bridge is, and this would be an adjunct to that that's, I think, more valuable.
Yeah, I think the existing building is, I
That's
personally in favor of the, I think that should go. I can see a pavilion with boat launch, I mean, in the future, because it's so
I don't think there's
close
any
to the flower
intent to
bridge.
keep the house.
Huh?
I don't think there's any intent
Yeah,
to
I
keep
mean,
the house.
I've been in it many times, and it's not suitable for public use. I don't think it would probably be a big money pit for the town.
Unless somebody has some information I don't know about. This
Does
is,
the property go right to the water? So it is.
Yeah, there's a little, the river comes out.
it doesn't mean you can do anything you want on the riverbank, but this is an opportunity that we should grab, I think.
Howard, are there grants available for
Recreational type things from HUD and, or, you know, any of the federal departments
Occasionally there are.
where we're always applying?
There are. Between the Farmington River Watershed Association, which is always, in contact with us about doing different things, the recreational things, passive recreational things primarily along the river, whether other grants come up from DEP, occasionally for those kinds of things as well. They're always in favor of if the choice is to remove the structure, the federal government's always in favor of removing structures from the floodplain area, no question about that. Because structures that were built there that constantly flood continue to incur costs, public costs, for the floodplain. So what the letter says is that it's the intent to improve public access to the river and to aggregate the property with other adjacent town-owned land for a larger parcel for public use. It doesn't specifically say that the house be removed, but I think you sort of can figure out there's some sort of series of alternatives there. It may include the removal of the structure, providing some sort of recreational facility there as well. So while I don't have any specific plan for that, I would not be surprised if that were the ultimate plan too.
Yeah, with the, I mean the Bridge of Flowers a lot, and you can't go near it anymore without having 4 or 5 bicycle people there and such. And so, I mean, it's really, with us being the bicycle-friendly town and with stuff going on, and the new moor being built by the Scout Hall, I mean, all that area is really, and I think, I personally see it as just an open-air pavilion or something, so you can sit there and look at the beautiful bridge, or put your kayak in, and whatever. So, but that's,
I see people.
at least greater minds than mine can. But I think I would like some, if the commission is in favor, to give a positive recommendation to the town.
One of the things that, without a plan for the property, I have concern with us just buying a property to buy a property. I would like to see a plan come out of the Board of Selectmen and say that, this is what we have planned for this property, so we can envision it. I mean, all the things we're saying here sound really nice. But the Board of Selectmen has said, we don't know what we're gonna do. And we're just gonna buy it and then let the chips fall and see what we can get done. I have a concern with that. I think we should be planning and have that in the plan to say, this is what we envision this doing with a plan in place. To say, this is what we're going to do with it. And unfortunately, they have not done that. So.
What if our answer was that our intent or our interest is in a recreational use that utilizes access to the river? Would that be specific enough, or do you want?
I'd like to know what they want to do with it. So.
I don't think are they locked in, and have they, I don't know personally if they have if the offer's been accepted.
I believe it would not have come this far had that not been the case. I don't think it's gone any further than that yet. It has to go to the Board of Selectmen for final acceptance. Yeah. I'm sure they've had a number of discussions about the details of this in executive session, but I'm not going to privy to those.
I'm comfortable with what you just said and having I think it's probably too soon, and there'll probably be a lot of discussion, whether it's a mini charrette or a bunch of a lot of town staff and agencies will probably give input as to what the final thing is. But I think that maybe time might be of the essence, and if they make an offer, and how long can the current owner wait, and if we wait too long, maybe we'll lose it. So again, I have no background, no basis for saying it.
Wouldn't this help us if the commission decided that the recommendation of the planning commission is, number one, that a plan be developed for the property at some point in the near future. 2, that the use be for public access, whether it involves keeping the structure or not. And then 3, specifically that grants be sought, if possible, for the redevelopment or the planning of the property. Would those be help you or not?
Yeah, that would help. They would help. I just don't want to just say, yeah, go ahead and buy it, and then with no plan at all.
And it's not a small chunk of change either.
No.
And we're losing the tax basis. They're not going to be able to sell it the way it is now. I think it's too much money for the piece of property. I'd love to see it developed, but it seems like a lot of money for the town to pay for it.
Is there a proposed cleanup?
It's on the market for price out or something.
Right, and if they knock it down, all the cleanup that goes with it, all the, you're talking additional fees to the town. Again, a great idea, but it seems an expensive thing for the town to do.
Do we know the extent of the hazardous material?
I'm sorry?
Do we know the extent of the hazardous material that needs to be removed?
No.
So we don't know a cost. So we're going to buy something with hazardous material, and we don't know what the cleanup cost is.
No, that was supposed to be done before the sale, I believe.
I believe that's correct. I think it says that,
Here it just says there's evidence that removal of hazardous material would need to be completed as part of any demolition or construction activities. That's all it says. It doesn't tell you how much is part of the sale, right?
I know they've set aside some funds for those contingencies. That's all I can tell you about that. I don't know the details of what the testing would be. Town engineer may have some of that information. I don't have it tonight.
So I guess the question is, who's footing that bill? Is it the seller or is it us as the buyer?
I don't know. I don't have the contract.
I think we need that answer.
Okay, so would you want to make that a number 4 as part of your recommendation or no? Or not?
I just like, no, not necessarily, just like an answer to that to figure out what it is that it's really going to cost the town in total.
If it were a private buyer, the seller would be responsible for those costs.
It actually depends on the contract that you do with.
But it's my understanding they don't have a binding contract at this time.
Anyone make a motion? Any more discussion?
Well, I'd be content to vote on a motion that included the 3 items that Aaron ran off.
Do you want to make that motion?
Sure. Yeah, I would move that we answer the referral positively with the 3 provisos that Hiram listed. I just think it's an opportunity we should not miss.
A second? I'll second it. Discussion.
I just don't know how we could vote on something we don't.
Yeah, we don't know the answer to. We don't know.
I mean, I agree. I think it's a great idea. Get some ice cream shop down there, some kayaks, some boats and stuff. Without knowing the full extent of the cost, how can you purchase a property?
I don't think we'll, I mean, my personal feeling is we're not going to know that within the time frame. And my concern would be that we lose the opportunity. I think it's so unique, but maybe I'm
Yeah, the
overcautious.
value of the property is not something that I feel that I can
So
assess.
the hazmat material would cost an additional $300,000.
Then
willing to
then it's
purchase
up
it?
to the Board of Selectmen not to buy it. I mean, they have to, we're saying that if feasible, maybe we should take it. If it's feasible, economically feasible, we think it's a good idea. How about that? But I don't feel that I'm qualified to say that $250,000 is too much or
And
$200,000.
between Main Street and the watershed and Hiram's past record on getting grants, I think that'll probably be one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but if this is approved, that's probably the first thing you're gonna go for. Look everywhere you can to find money in the trees.
That doesn't make people feel better saying if it's economically feasible.
I don't know what economically feasible means when
Well,
they
maybe
raise
that's
their
why they use
taxes every year.
I think overall, I'm uncomfortable with approving this, even with the additions. It's too up in the air. I understand the opportunity, but opportunity sometimes moving too quickly is not in everyone's best interest, especially the town of Simsbury.
Would you feel more comfortable voting if we had a couple of numbers back? Is that possible?
I feel more comfortable if we knew what we were going to do with the property. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly, tell the town engineer tomorrow morning that the commission would like some answers to those. And you can either attend the next meetings or provide that information.
I'd be fine with it doing a special meeting if we can get some numbers.
How about I withdraw the motion? I don't see enough interest for a vote.
Hiram, how critical is the time, do you think? Can we get the town engineer in 2 weeks, or is 2 weeks too long? Is the selectmen pushing for?
I believe it's on their agenda for tomorrow night.
I missed it.
I believe it's on their agenda for tomorrow night.
Okay. That's fairly close.
So just to ask a question, so the Board of, the Selectmen haven't raised the question of hazardous material cost removal?
again, town engineer may have that answer, Kevin, I don't have it. And so I'm sure that they've looked into that. He does mention it is material. But obviously, it says it would need to be confirmed through testing of the building material, so clearly that hasn't taken place yet. At least it had not taken place as of September 24th.
It's only on the Board of Selectmen agenda as an update, it's not on as a vote.
So if you want to wait till the next meeting, I can let them know that that was the commission's decision. Happy to do that.
We have a motion, a second, and we're doing discussion.
Actually,
You
I
want to
withdrew
withdraw the
the
motion?
I withdrew.
I'd rather do that than
Yeah, well,
have
it's
a
not
negative vote.
consensus to vote.
Let's try for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be all for doing a special meeting if we had more substance.
If
We don't have
they're,
time
the
before-
selectmen know,
Right.
they meet tomorrow night, so if we haven't voted on it, the next meeting will be a week from the following Monday.
Yeah, I think because of the holiday, they're meeting tomorrow as on a Wednesday, they're usually on a Monday, so it may be 2 Mondays from now, so.
Okay.
So the questions had to do with regard to the status of hazardous materials. Has any appraisal been done of how much it will cost to remove those? Clear up, anything else?
Well, Bob wants
Yeah,
some
Yeah,
idea what
I
he's gonna do.
I'd like to see a plan.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that, I don't know if there is one. but I'll certainly ask the question.
exactly.
Or what's on their mind, their options,
An intent.
what they've
Right.
discussed.
An intent, at least say that you just don't say, I think we want to buy it, tear down the building. That doesn't tell me what you want to do.
All right?
And what's their interest in buying the building? Somebody's got something going on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Very good.
communication, administrative business.
A couple of things. There is also, just before that, there is B, discussion and possible recommendation with regard to the Capital Region Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. And I believe that was sent to you in your package.
It sure was.
And so I'm sure that you all read it carefully. I can tell you that I spoke earlier this evening with Rich Sawicki, who had a lot to do actually with putting it together. Talks a little bit about what the town is about with regard to hazard mitigation, things that have been done, challenges that the town has been presented with. There are obviously specific areas where the town has challenges, whether they're floodplains or flooding areas, and there are specific objectives and plans that are put together for that. The overall plan, as I may have mentioned to you in one of my emails, is about 700 pages, so I just gave you the Simsbury section, so from the CROG plan. So if this meets with your acceptance, that CROG has passed favorably on it already, they're looking favorably on it, their FEMA has given its conditional approval already. If the commission is comfortable with that, recommendation to approve this as part of that plan would be appreciated by the town engineer.
I read it, believe it or not, most of it. So, anyone-
It was comprehensive.
Any comments or? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the, in regard to the 2014-2019 Capital Region National Hazards Mitigation Plan update.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. This letter dated October 13 about proposed donation of 0.39 acres.
Yeah.
I don't see that on the agenda. Is that under communications? Or
Yeah, it
just
is
an
actually.
FYI?
That's what I was going to tell you. That this, and some of you may know this particular property. This is a small piece of property that's actually just before the town line into Granby. This is abuts the Brettonwood condominiums, a small piece of property that for a number of years the owners of the property in Granby have tried to get the town of Simsbury to take. I spoke for a little while with the assessor, and I put together that memo on the 13th, indicating that the assessor has continued to send them bills on this particular property since 2003 without a response, which might have included a check. And so the property is currently assessed at $350 a year. And the request actually from the selectmen was for the commission to talk about this, make a recommendation with regard to should it be accepted as open space, does the town want it, does the town have any need for it, in light of the fact that the assessor still has some open issues. I'm not sure that I'm recommending that the town should accept it as open space.
Why can't we force them to pay?
That is certainly an option, and if that's the commission's direction, I will convey that to the assessor and the board of selectmen.
It's a nice way to get rid of your tax obligation.
Is that property particularly valuable or contiguous to something else that we want it?
No one has stepped forward and said that, at all, Rich, that I'm aware of.
How big is it?
0.39 acres. Very neat.
Want to do a sidewalk?
Well, take long.
And all at the same time, it won't fit.
Want them to pay the taxes just like I do.
Yeah. All right, I will convey that information to the commission. Do you want to vote on that, then I can say you voted?
Actually, you wanted to pay the taxes.
No desire to accept the property would be fine. That would get it.
Once the taxes are paid, we'll go ahead. Is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that.
Do you need a motion?
That'd be great, I can report that out.
Yeah, I'd move that our preference would be to leave it as a taxable property and every effort be made to collect what's not been paid in the past.
Thanks. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Great, thanks very much.
Anything else?
Anybody have any questions
Mr.
about
Craig?
anything that's either going on or?
Sorry?
Anybody have any questions about anything that's going on? Dorset Crossing is moving right along. The apartments there are moving right along pretty quickly.
Big time.
They are. The MS Housing is moving along pretty quickly as well. We will be seeing, zoning commission will be seeing next week, possible plan for the rehabilitation of the old former Webster Bank building. So we'll see that. I haven't seen the plans yet myself, but I'm told that those will be coming in very shortly as well. So that's moving along as well.
Anything on Big What?
I've been told a couple of different things. One is that it was going to close in September. It's no longer September. So I'm waiting to hear that it's closed on a daily basis. I'm waiting to hear that. I do know that the conservation easement, or the easement has been signed by both parties with regard to the circulation of the trucks through there. That's been signed. So I'm not aware of anything else holding it up at all. There should be. But again, as I expressed to somebody the other day, it is a private deal between two private parties, and there's not a heck of a lot more we can do about it other than say it's approved, it's ready to go.
Information.
My understanding is, and always has been, is that they will start either demolition this fall and then probably start excavation for the new building in the spring. They need to be open by next October. That's their typical deadline. So I suspect that ultimately that's what will happen, something along those lines. But still going forward, been no indication whatsoever that they're not coming or that they're not going to move forward. That I'm aware of.
Lauren, what's the actual location? Is it going to be taking all of the, just that barn and the old Nissan dealership and then everything behind it?
It's the northern, that's about a 12-acre piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's the northern 6 acres, so it's about the northern half of it. So it's the old barn, I think there are two barns there. There's a bank barn there,
Mm-hmm.
and then that first large building. That's
Mhm.
basically it, and that's.
And then the property behind it, well, to where they donated that field for soccer at one time?
It's right, up to the boundary for the skating center property.
I see.
That's correct, yeah.
And so the remainder will be staying the same and?
Well, the remainder is, I'm told there are 3 other development alternatives that are being looked at right now by other people, but they're all holding their breath and waiting until Big Y makes its final commitment before they go forward.
I see.
So I think that once that does in fact go forward, that there probably will be other things that come forward pretty quickly after that.
And the barn, one of the barns is supposed to go to the historic society, supposed?
I've heard that. I've not seen any specifics. You know, I've talked to Kevin Gray a couple of times about that. I have some experience with taking down and moving barns, and I think that they should take it down and move it if they're going to move it. Somebody told me the other day they're thinking of taking the top off and then, you know, dragging it down Hop Meadow to the Historical Society in one piece. And I'm not so sure that that's the way I would do it, but that's not my call either. So, but my understanding is that they are talking about moving to the Historical Society, possibly at some sort of an open pavilion that would be able to be located on the rear of the parking lot, looking out over Iron Horse and over toward the trail. So possibly with some bathrooms downstairs. I'm not sure of that. Cost of doing that is always a question. I'm sure that may come into it at some point.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Drake?
Gentlemen, let's do the minutes for September 23rd. I'll entertain any deletions, changes, additions to the minutes at hand. Page 1.
Too many files. Here we go.
There's nothing on page 1. Page 2.
I think on 147, I think the applicant's engineer was Chris Ferraro. Is that right, Harry?
Yeah.
They put his name in there, Janice.
What line was
He's
that?
actually a landscape architect.
Sorry?
He's actually a landscape architect.
What line was that?
47.
47.
Page 3. Page 4.
On line 173, I thought we mentioned a possible percentage. I had written down 15 to 20%, or is that, I don't know if that's true or not.
10 to 20 is my recollection.
That was written out somewhere. I can't pinpoint where it said it, but I thought I read that in the minutes. It's 20.
Okay.
The memo that I put together after that for you, and then sent that around, that's what it was.
So insert 10 to 20.
Okay.
Page 5.
The, I guess that the female attorney on line 185 and 6, I guess she didn't say definitely, but that she potentially in a conservation easement. I guess that's what she said. You know, so that's all right. I just had a note there. Let's see.
Page 6. Page 7. Hearing no changes, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
One abstention. Any,
I wasn't here either.
Are there any other motions to be heard tonight?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much.
So what you were looking for was online.
Last page.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.